Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, we have a lot to talk about. We haven't had a show in a while. That's okay. There wasn't a whole lot of, really, to be honest with you, a whole lot of news in the Oklahoma State camp. Once we covered all the Eric Morris, the coaches and the coaching changes and the coaching hire and the coaching search. And then between that and really the transfer portal time, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. Basketball kind of had some warm-ups. The Cowgirls slipped up this week. That was disappointing. We're going to get into the Cowgirls game where they blew the lead against Baylor. We're going to get into their game today against Houston. And then the disappointing trip to Lubbock, Texas for the Cowboys today. But then we're really going to talk about the transfer portal. But before we do that, let me actually start this meeting. And what I would really like, I'm by myself, and I don't like being by myself, going to have Scott McKinley on tomorrow night. We're going to join the McKinley Minutes. Let me put this link in the chat here. And come on, it'll be audio only, so you don't have to worry about video. Click that link, and you can come in and join the show and talk Cowboy football, talk Cowboy basketball, talk everything and anything that you want to about OSU. But for today, or at least for now, the first thing I want to talk about, obviously, is the hottest topic, and that is the transfer portal. Opened yesterday on Friday. Over 3,000, I think I read over 3,000 young men entered the transfer portal. I think a lot of Oklahoma State fans, let's start here with OSU. I think a lot of Oklahoma State fans are disappointed that we weren't able to come in. Gavin Freeman's the only receiver that OSU has kept, I believe, on the roster. I was disappointed, honestly, that Talon Shetron didn't stay around. I thought he might, being from Edmond, being a guy that really was in tune with OSU. He was a guy that I really thought would stick it out. That one surprised me. Rodney Fields, I'm not going to lie, that surprised me, being from Del City. LaDainian and his brother being on the team, him getting so many reps, sticking through all last year. I really thought Oklahoma State would have had a chance to keep him. And the rest of them, to be honest with you, have not surprised me at all. Haas Haney did not surprise me. And I know I've heard a lot about Haas Haney. And let me kind of explain at least the way that, and I've interviewed a bunch of professionals in the Dodger system and a handful or so, more than a handful, but several different Oklahoma State athletes and their eligibility. And I can tell you, when there's a coaching change, it's not a slight in any way to the university that you're at if you decide to transfer. It's a big deal when a new regime comes in and you weren't chosen by them. You're not one of their guys. And so if you're a Haas Haney, if you're a Rodney Fields, and you got a Drew Mestemaker coming in, and Drew Mestemaker was chosen by Eric Morris 2 different times, one at UNT the first time, and then also again at OSU. Drew Mestemaker was committed today to Oklahoma State. I think we all knew on Friday that he was going to make it here, or he was going to choose Oklahoma State. And then if you're Rodney Fields Jr., let's think about this. Caleb Hawkins, okay, nothing confirmed, but Caleb Hawkins is from Tecumseh. No, excuse me. He's from North Rock Creek, which is really has stolen a lot of athletes out of Shawnee. If you want to know what has happened to Shawnee athletics, and Shawnee, hey, they were decent in football. They have a good basketball team. It's not a total loss. There has been some lean years for Shawnee in the last couple, but, you know, that's a far cry from back in the day when they were winning state championships with Billy Brown as their coach and his son at quarterback. And then I go all the way back to the late 80s when they had Darian Gordon, and I believe I can't remember the first name, but I think the last name was Campbell, and they were running the flex bone there, and they were just really, really good. So if you want to know kind of what the downfall of the Shawnee athletics, North Rock Creek has done a really good job of taking a lot of athletes away from Shawnee, kind of like down there in the Ardmore area where you get new school. Plainview's taken. That's where Justin Blackman went. They've taken a lot of athletes. So Ardmore, back when they had Raphael Denson and Roy Rogers at quarterback, and they had Jermaine Gresham at receiver, and those incredibly talented teams in the early 2000s, and then all the way back to Raphael Denson, early 90s. Plainview's taken a lot of their athletes. So I'm kind of getting on a side rail here. But just to tell a short story and make it long like I like to do, Caleb Hawkins is from North Rock Creek. Patrick Cobbs is from Tecumseh. I would be absolutely shocked if the Cowboys do not get Caleb Hawkins. And Rodney Fields can see that writing on the wall. And the last thing Rodney Fields wants to do is not be the starter on Oklahoma State. I think one of the selling points with OSU with him last year to keep him going and to keep him here throughout the season was he got a lot of carries. He was the main back, right? And so it's going to be really weird to see Rodney Fields not at Oklahoma State. It was always a natural going all the way back to Del City. Got to see him just absolutely destroy Guthrie a couple of years in the playoffs on their way through the playoffs there at Del City. And with his brother LaDainian here, LaDainian got some good action this year, got the big interception, showed out a little bit. I think LaDainian showed a lot of really good signs this year. I thought that was a good chance that we would keep Rodney Fields. And I'm going to be really transparent as far as I'm very high on Rodney Fields. If you watched our coverage here on OState Daily, I love Rodney Fields. He's kind of the Gerald Hudson, the Thurman Thomas, the David Thompson, the Kendall Hunter, the Justice Hill. He's that kind of guy. And just watching him versus Caleb Hawkins, maybe that's an upgrade, maybe it's not. But I will say this, Caleb Hawkins is Eric Morris's guy. And when you have a new coach come in, and then also the second running back the second running guy, I can't remember the name. Forgive me for the names. Io Adeli or something like that. Forgive me for mispronouncing that. From UNT, actually, it was at James Madison last year. Originally went to UNT. I think Oklahoma State stands a good chance to get him. So you're talking about two backs that were chosen at one point, both by Eric Morris. So if you're Rodney Fields, you see that writing on the wall, and you're like, hey, I'm pretty damn good. I'm going to go somewhere where I'm chosen. And so it's disappointing for me. I wish we could have kept him. I'm not sure I wouldn't have made him a priority if I was Eric Morris, even above a Caleb Hawkins, above whoever. How many yards did we have this year? Yes. Rodney Fields was a good player. I mean, if you want to criticize whatever about Oklahoma State, he would not be one of them, I think, that you should criticize. And so, yeah, if you want to say, was the offense good? No. But I wouldn't say it was because of him. I'd say it's because we didn't have receivers that didn't separate. We didn't have an offensive line that could give whoever the quarterback was, and the quarterback, by the way, play was not good. On top of that, didn't have enough time to throw. And then we didn't have a deep threat. And if we did have a deep threat, we didn't have time to actually get it off. Terrell Davis, I think, could be that guy, could have been that guy, but we shall see. So I'm disappointed we didn't keep Rodney Fields. Wendell Gregory, hey, it is what it is. There's no real connection here with OSU. I think that's pretty predictable. He's a guy that's already moved around quite a bit. And to be honest with you, I think with the type of season he had, 16, 17 tackles, I think when you get a Raj Murdy in and you start playing money ball, which, hey, let's make no mistake about it, the young analytical guys, we see it in baseball a lot. Matter of fact, my co-host on Dodgers Daily, who is just a wonderful baseball brain, he is a statistician as a career. And so we get into a lot of the metrics and just kind of the analytics of baseball and the Dodgers and different parts of the game and contracts and this and that. So what Oklahoma State's getting ready to play is Moneyball. And so what Moneyball will tell you is, okay, yeah, take the emotions out of it. What is a guy willing to produce versus what are you going to pay him? And Oklahoma State's going to have plenty of money. We have told you from the beginning. Matter of fact, we told you 2 days before it happened on social media that the donors were lining up and they had the money to move on from Mike Gundy. I got a lot of heat for that, a lot of pushback from that. 2 days later after we posted about it, it actually happened. I have been receiving emails, messages, comments, you name it, about, okay, well, where are these donors you've been talking about that were getting ready to step up? Well, how about Drew Mestemaker, okay? We have told you that Oklahoma State was going to have the money to do whatever it takes, not to an extremely ridiculous extent, probably not to a Texas Tech extent, but have plenty of money to win a Big 12 championship. That is a fact. You are seeing that with Drew Mestemaker. Oklahoma State is going to sign, likely, if you can get Wyatt Young. Now, Wyatt Young is going to visit Louisville going to visit Michigan. What, 3 to maybe 4 of the top 25 transfer portal additions, okay? One of the most expensive in Drew Mestemaker. The money is being put out to create a roster that will be competitive at a very high level in the Big 12. So if you're one of those that, hey, I'm going to wait and see if these people are actually correct about the donors actually giving money once the Cowboys move on from Mike Gundy, who had completely just kind of got sideways, went sideways with the donors, not maybe on Mike Gundy's side, but the donors being sideways with Mike Gundy. That has happened, and we are seeing it right in front of our eyes. I say that to say, Oklahoma State doesn't have Dodgers money. They can't go sign Shohei Ohtani, okay? And they can't afford to go make a mistake. And so Oklahoma State has plenty of money to go win a Big 12 championship, possibly next year. I mean, hey, you go get Drew, connect to your encoder to start preview. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Hopefully you guys are seeing it. Let me know. There we go. Possibly next year, if you go get Drew Mestemaker, Wyatt Young, Caleb Hawkins, these guys are as good as advertised. You go pay for a good offensive line. You get, who knows? Now I'm getting the cart ahead of the horse, but you don't go get a Drew Mestemaker for $7 million over 2 years, not to be aggressive in trying to win and win very soon. Okay, so you're seeing that the Cowboys. The money is being put where we've said the mouth has been put. We have covered. They would have the money. You're seeing it. They do. So I say that to say the money ball game to it is you can afford to pay for a Drew Mestemaker. You can't afford then, once you go get a Drew Mestemaker, then you can't afford to overpay for anybody else. So even if Wendell Gregory is good, even if Wendell Gregory is very good, Moneyball will tell you if you can go get somebody that's going to give you similar production, which means maybe a guy that's a year or two older, that's cheaper, that's a little bit more under the radar, then you can spread out and still have money to also go get defensive linemen, to go get offensive linemen. If you just go spend all of your money on 3 or 4 players and you don't have an offensive line and a defensive line, if you overpay for a Wendell Gregory, if you overpay for whoever it may be of all the players that are leaving, a Haas Haney, somebody like that. Why would Oklahoma State overpay for Haas Haney whenever they need an offensive line? Why would they overpay for Wendell Gregory when they would need an offensive line? So Moneyball will tell you on the margins, which anything beyond a Drew Mestemaker, Caleb Hawkins, I think maybe some Oklahoma State fans would probably argue that Wendell Gregory is a margins type guy. But, I mean, it's not like he was I know he got a lot of accolades and he was a good player, but he's not a guy at this point in Oklahoma State I think can afford to overpay for, okay? Because of he's not Jamal Williams yet. He's not Leslie O'Neal. He's not that kind of guy at this point. Yes, potential. Yes, good. But you play the money ball game with those situations. You go try to find a guy that fits similar metrics at a cheaper price, and then you try to spread the rest of the funds that you have out as wisely as you possibly can. It is absolutely no different than the way Mike Gundy built the greatest teams Oklahoma State's ever had. Now, yes, did he get lucky with Brandon Whedon that Brandon Whedon didn't get his phone calls answered by OU, and he ended up at Oklahoma State. Yes, that he actually got opportunity, and yes, that actually he was that good. I mean, I don't think Mike Gundy expected Brandon Whedon to be that good. Somewhat lucky with Justin Blackman. I mean, Justin Blackman, yes, he was recruited by OU, and it wasn't like he was a nobody, but I don't think anybody predicted him to be as good as he was. If they did, he would have been getting offers from everybody, right? He'd been a 5-star recruit, okay? But this is no different than how Mike Gundy has built the greatest teams in Oklahoma State history. You go spend what you have to spend to get the triplets, the running back, the receiver, the quarterback, the guys that can go make plays. And then with everybody else, you go and you fill in with the best player available that you can afford. So that's where we're at with Oklahoma State, and that's what makes Raj Murdy so valuable, is that he's going to comb through analytics, he's going to comb through evaluations, he's going to comb through video, and he's going to do it with zero emotions tied to it. He's going to do it with what is the best bang for Oklahoma State's buck in terms of the best player we can get for the price tag we can get. So yes, maybe we won't get a player quite as good as Wendell Gregory, but because we would have had to have overpaid for him, now we can go get 2 or 3 other guys that whenever you put the sum together, the 2 or 3 guys, maybe 4 guys now that you can sign that are similar to him, the sum of those 4 guys are better than the sum of the one Wendell Gregory. That's Moneyball. That's how you put together a roster of players that overachieve for what you pay them. That's the job of Raj Murdy. You at your skill spots, at your most important positions, you put elite studs. Drew Mestemaker last year was elite. Okay, Caleb Hawkins is a good player. I have not seen enough of him. I'm going to revert back to I really liked Rodney Fields. Caleb Hawkins for me is going to have to be very good for me to be convinced that he is anywhere from an upgrade to a substantial upgrade. We'll see. Wyatt Young, I think, is going to be an upgrade to anybody we had. Well, I don't know. Gavin Freeman was pretty good, but Gavin Freeman's still on roster. I mean, Gavin Freeman was damn good, but I think he would be an upgrade. I don't know if Wyatt Young would be considered a slot receiver or an outside receiver. 6 foot. I know he can blow the top off of it, so I think he could play some outside if he needed to, and that would give you Gavin Freeman and Wyatt Young. Wyatt Young then would play on the outside, and if Wyatt Young played on the outside, I think he would be a substantial upgrade to anything Oklahoma State had on the roster last year. So I think you got the money to go get the playmakers you need, and then you have plenty of money to fill in the rest of your roster using Moneyball by evaluating the best bang for your buck. And I think Oklahoma State has really good people in position to get that done. So super excited about Drew Mestemaker. A little bit nervous. Haas Haney, to be honest with you, looked really good. Now it was UT Martin, and let's make no mistakes about it. UT Martin was horrible. They were a horrible FCS team this year. No doubt about it. They were bad, okay? So is there really anything you can take from that UT Martin performance? You can take that he had elite speed. I wasn't totally impressed with his arm speed, with his arm strength. We have no idea what kind of decision maker he is because we didn't see any of that. So, I mean, a lot of variables with Haas Haney. Who knows? And if you're one of those that feels like, hey, Oklahoma State, whatever they paid for him, they got 3 snaps out. I can't push back on that. The only pushback I have would be that if you feel ripped off by Haas Haney because you felt like, hey, if he was healthy, then he should have helped the team down the stretch and played. Instead, he was selfish and kept a red shirt, medical red shirt. But I can't push back other than to say you and I will never know actually how healthy he was. And the only way I would ever agree with you on that, if, in fact, Haas Haney was healthy and could have played and chose to use the medical red shirt from a selfish perspective to keep that extra year of money making, I think Oklahoma State fans have a valid reason to feel like they got ripped off by Haas Haney. But you and I will never know to the extent that he was injured and whether he actually could have came back and played. So the Haas Haney thing, not a surprise. Wendell Gregory, not a surprise. And in a weird way, I think that probably was more Oklahoma State initiated just because I think he was going to be an overpay. And to be honest with you, I don't know how else to say this, and I don't want this to be negative. I don't want this for you guys or gals out there, you wonderful Oklahoma State Cowboys and Cowgirls, to think money aside, character has to count for something too. I totally agree with that. Sounds like TW got numbers, $3.5 million this year, $4.4 million next year. Yes, no doubt about that. And so I don't want to I don't want to throw shade on Coach Gundy. I'm gonna we're to the next stage, okay? But there are going to be some topics here that makes us have to rehash Coach Gundy, and this is one of them. I will say I'm extremely disappointed in Coach Gundy. I'm pissed at him. He left OSU in shambles. I love everything he did. I will never. I don't think Oklahoma State will ever not be in debt to Mike Gundy for the wonderful things he did. But I think it's okay to also say, what a shitty way to leave with a terrible team, with your university or an alma mater in shambles, with no thank you to the commitment Oklahoma State gave you for however many years they gave it to you. What a shitty way to leave. Extremely disappointed and not surprised in the way that Mike Gundy handled the departure, but extremely disappointed and quite honestly quite pissed at the way that he left Oklahoma State. Now, if you want to be pissed at OSU instead of Mike, whatever, that's an entirely different conversation. We're past that conversation. I'm not saying that to get into that conversation. I'm saying that to get into this one. Replacing a legend is extremely difficult to do. You're always, hell, Oklahoma State basketball fans, even today, watching the crappy-ass defense. I mean, Oklahoma State scored 80 points in basketball and got beat by 22, okay? That's how bad the defense is in basketball. I promise you, Oklahoma State fans, when they watched that, were going, well, when Eddie did this, well, when Eddie did that, well, Eddie would bench his ass. Well, Eddie would have done that. I promise you, Eddie Sutton's name got brought up in diehard Oklahoma State basketball fans' minds, or even in conversation if they were talking about today's game, or even some of the past games several different times. That's how hard it is to replace a legend. So, if you have remnants or what I call scar tissue laying around from the previous program, it makes it very difficult to move on. When it's not a situation, I mean, yes, there was a firing here, but it's not, this isn't a firing like, okay, well, a guy came in, he sucked, Oklahoma State fans hated him, we can't wait to move on, get his ass out of here. We are so ready for the next guy because this guy just did nothing for OSU. It's kind of, it's a weird dichotomy if you're an Oklahoma State fan because you love Mike Gundy, but then you're pissed at him, kind of like where I'm at here. So really, truly, in my opinion, the only way to move on at this point from Mike Gundy is to do this, okay? New system, new coaches, yes. Hey, Kevin Johns is a good coach. You may disagree with that because the offense sucked terribly down the stretch. I can't push back on that. I'm going to throw that a lot on personnel, okay? Specifically offensive line, specifically I think the quarterback play, especially the last game or two, was not up to snuff. I think Kevin Johns is a good football coach. I think the defensive line coach, Ryan Osborne, good football coach. I think Clint Bowen, damn good football coach. I think he proved that. I think Doug Meacham is a good dude and in the right role is beneficial to a football program. I don't know if that's on the coaching staff or not. I think there were some good candidates for Eric Morris to keep. I don't blame him whatsoever for not retaining any of them. Although I was pretty strong on Ryan Osborne, okay? I don't blame Eric Morris. And it's not because the new coach, Cody Creel, coming in is a better offensive line coach than Cooper Bassett. I don't believe that. I believe Andrew Alexander and Cooper Bassett were good offensive line coaches. I don't necessarily believe Cody Creel is a better offensive line coach. I don't think Ike Iguae, I think that's who if I get a name wrong, please forgive me for that, is a better defensive line coach than Ryan Osborne. I don't think Skylar Cassidy is necessarily a better defensive coordinator than Clint Bowen. I don't necessarily think that. But I still think it was a good idea for Eric Morris to not retain those coaches and to hire new ones, only because the replacing the legend aspect of it, I think the only way it can work is if you do this. Just absolutely, this Mike Gundy era is over. There are no remnants left over. There is nothing to compare. There's nothing to say, okay, well, this is the way we did it before. This is the way. It's all new. You have to start all new. You got to peel that thing off. You got to just rip it off, and you've got to start absolutely brand spanking new. I think that is absolutely the best strategy to move on from a legend. Now, whether you like Mike Gundy, whether you're pissed at him like I am, whether you think he was an arrogant ass like I do, whether you think the way that he handled the separation was bullshit like I do, okay? To be honest with you, you can disagree with that. That's fine, okay? Even if you think that, I just don't think there's any arguing whatsoever. He's absolutely a legend. And the only way to move on, again, is to start at zero. Rip it off. No remnants, no scar tissue, no anything. So is the coaching staff in 3 or 4 spots an upgrade? Maybe not. Is the running back an upgrade? Maybe not. Hell, maybe Drew Mestemaker. This time last year, he was just starting against Texas State for his very first action ever. And before that, before that Texas State game, the last game he played as quarterback was as a freshman in high school, And since then, he's played Navy and Army, and the 3 games that they played against really good teams, he wasn't very good. So there is an argument and a possibility that Haas Haney goes to TCU, and Haas Haney actually ends up being better than Drew Mestemaker. That could happen. Just because, yes, was Drew Mestemaker awesome? Is he one of the best transfer portal, not just quarterbacks, but prospects out there? Absolutely. But there is a lot of uncertainties still left to Drew Mestemaker. He hasn't played a lot. He's played against substantially less competition than what he's going to do. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. I think Drew Mestemaker is going to come to Oklahoma State. I think he's going to make quick decisions. I think he's going to run an offense that he knows like the back of his hand. I think he's going to have some receivers he already has timing with. He's going to have Caleb Hawkins. He's going to have his head coach, his entire and I think it's going to work pretty good. I don't think that's going to happen, but there is a world out there that it could. So, hell, maybe that's not even an upgrade to Haas Haney. Maybe. Again, go back to what I just said. So is it more in the fact that, yes, Oklahoma State's actually upgrading in every single spot? Is Oklahoma State actually going to get a better defensive player than Wendell Gregory? Probably not, but they're going to have to do it through the masses, But again, I do think it is, especially when it's Mike Gundy. Especially when it's the hometown boy, right? The Oklahoma State reporters have been covering Mike Gundy since he was 16 years old, in wrestling tournaments, and in baseball, and in football. You had to start clean. So I think even Oklahoma State fans that wanted Ryan Osborne, that wanted Cooper Bassett, that wanted Clint Bowen, that wanted Rodney Fields like I did, that maybe wanted Talon Shetron, that wanted Wendell Gregory. I think we all need to come to the conclusion. Of course, y'all are adults out there. You're going to come to your own conclusion. This is my suggestion. Come to the conclusion that it's in the best interest of moving on from a legend to not have any scar tissue, not have any remnants laying around from the legendary regime of Mike Gundy. That's where I'm at. Now, okay, Fixie Code Gaming says, yes, time to start fresh. And we have a comment purposefully, and we have a comment about Meacham. He seemed like a good dude, but he ran off Josh Ford. I don't even want to get into the Josh Ford thing. If Josh Ford and his agents and his former high school football coach, they want to talk shit on college football coaches at Oklahoma State, Doug Meacham's been nothing but class act, If they want to actually come out and say what happened, if they want to give people the chance to defend themselves and actually explain from their perspective what happened, fine. Until that happens, they're full of shit. And that's how I'm going to feel about that. Now, I may be the one full of shit. They may absolutely be 100% correct, but that's not how you handle something. You don't you don't throw somebody under the bus knowing that they're not in a position to be able to tell their side of the story. If you wanted to come out, if Josh Ford or Tucker Barnard, I'll say the name, I don't give a crap. That's just a bullshit tweet that he came out with. If they want to come out and tell me exactly what the Oklahoma State coaches did so I can make my own mind up as to, yeah, that was bullshit. I don't blame Josh Ford for being pissed. I don't blame him for not wanting to. If they want to come out and give the exact specifics, fine. Then at that point, Doug Meacham or whoever it may be has a chance to defend themselves. But if you want to come out with this blanket, well, it's too bad his coaches did this, it's too bad, and then not tell me what happened where I can't even form an opinion, that's chicken shit. 100% complete chicken shit. And that's how I'm going to view it. That's what I posted about it. So I put my money where my mouth was at. I know Tucker Barnard. We're both graduates of Stillwater High School. I coached football at Guthrie while he was the head coach at Stillwater. We went over and scrimmaged several different times with our junior highs over there. I know Tucker, and I'm going to say it point blank. Chicken shit move to call out somebody without giving specifics and not letting somebody else defend themselves. Fine. I put that out on social media. I'm putting it out here. Don't care. That's how I feel. And so the Josh Ford deal, I have no opinion other than I don't know what happened. I think it's crappy how it's been handled. And beyond that, I'm going to move on from that. So that's where I'm at in terms of the strategy of Oklahoma State football, the transfer portal. Exciting weekend. It's the Wild Wild West. I'm going to say this. I personally like the transfer portal. I've been in coaching my entire adult career. And I can tell you that transfer portal puts accountability on guys like a Mike Gundy. You can't wear an OAN shirt. Now, can Mike Gundy wear an OAN shirt? Absolutely. Is he entitled to wear an OAN shirt? Absolutely. Is it free speech for me to drop an F-bomb? Absolutely. 100%. Okay? Can I walk into my first hour and do it? Absolutely not. Okay? There's repercussions. So there's a difference between having a right to do something, but then also having repercussions. So whether you're on the side of, does he have the right to wear an OAN shirt? Of course he does. He has a right to have whatever political beliefs he wants to have. He has a right to do any of that, no doubt. Okay? But as the leader of 100 and some odd men who all have extremely different political beliefs, okay, are there going to be repercussions from that? Whether you like that or agree with that or not, of course, okay? So what I like about the transfer portal aspect of it is, if you want to be a jackass as a coach, if you want to be a guy that doesn't treat their players right, that doesn't have good relationships, that wants to be polarizing and say, hey, look what I can do. I can do this. I can do that. I can get away with it because you don't have any other choice, this or that. If you want to be that guy, which I think coaches in the past, there's been plenty of those guys, okay, see ya. So you can't be that guy anymore. So the best coaches have found a way to continue to have, because I'm going to say it again, I said it on our last show, these players still want structure. They still want discipline because they know, the best players know, that structure and discipline is what actually wins. And even in the game of money, players still want to win. They still want to win, okay? The greatest players are still driven by winning and losing. Yes, the money is great, but winning and losing still is the motivating factor. So the greatest players still, even in today's transfer portal era, they are going to want you to coach them. They're going to want you to coach them hard. They're going to want you to have the extreme amount of accountability held towards them. They're going to want you to hold them accountable. They're going to want you to coach them in a way that does hold them accountable. Even if that means moments where you piss them off, even if that means there's times where they don't like the way you're coaching them, as long as they know that you have their best interest in mind, you love them, and what you're actually doing is trying to bring the best out of them, the best out of their team, and the ultimate goal is to make the best individuals, and then eventually the ultimate goal of having the best team. As long as you can spend the time to convince your players that that's actually what the motive is for you coaching tough against these guys or gals, whoever it may be, they'll let you coach them just like they did 20 years ago. That is a to me, that's a misnomer. If you have the proper relationship with your players, not only will they allow you to coach them, what I could say pretty much old school, they will want you to coach them old school because they will want to get the best out of themselves. They will want to be the best player they can possibly be and be on the best team, because if they become the best version of themselves and they are on the best team, guess what's going to happen for those players? They are going to get the biggest paycheck. So one thing the coaches are realizing really, really fast is that if you go get players from losing programs, this has been a trick for recruiters that recruited high school kids for a long time. Okay, this is why programs that didn't ever develop, like we had a kid in the early 2000s that was probably the best offensive defensive lineman we've ever had, I think, or one of, and didn't go to the biggest Division I university because we hadn't had a Division I recruit yet. Well, then once he got in the door, we had another 2 or 3 Division I recruits. Well, hell, then we're replacing guys at Missouri and OSU. And those, so it's kind of what I'm saying is that the trick to this is recruiting. You don't want to recruit players that come from losing programs. They have a losing mindset. They don't know anything other than losing, okay? So there's a double whammy here. If you have a player that in high school came from a program that didn't win a whole lot, then they go to college programs that didn't win a lot, and you plug them into your, what do you expect? What kind of mindset do you expect from them? Well, they have a losing mindset. Now, that may sound a little bit too black and white, and it may be. That may sound too cutthroat. But I think what coaches are finding in the transfer portal is that it's better to go get a player that has a winning mentality, that knows nothing other than winning, that may be a little less talented than the player that is used to losing, that may be the physical freak. And so why do I say that? I tie that back into, if you become the best version of yourself, but more importantly, you become a part of a winning team, you become more valuable. You become richer. You get a bigger paycheck. So if you can convince that aspect of the individual side of things to your players, which the best coaches do, and the way that you convince them of that is through your actions, not through your words, okay? Players love the text messages, well, in the past, the text messages or the whatever they may be, okay? But what they really like is the actions. If you can convince them of that, you can still coach them, okay? And that's what we're going to get. That's what I really think we're going to see from Eric Morris. So Oklahoma State, I think they're going to go guns a-blazing, that you got to get a big-time receiver. You got to get a big-time running back, stable of running backs. Then you got to play very intelligent, smart money ball. So like the Los Angeles Dodgers or the New York Mets or the New York Yankees, okay, they can go get and pay for a superstar and say they'll go get a Juan Soto, right? And say Juan Soto is not nearly as good as what you paid for him. Okay, well then they go get another superstar because they're made of money. They can replenish that money with more money, okay? That's how those types of programs can do it. If you go buy a player, if he doesn't work out, you fire him after that 1 year, send him off to a different university. You go buy the next player for $5 million, okay? Which most of the big-time programs, they fill in with the transfer portal. They don't make their entire roster on. Indiana did, but they're not a blue blood type. When I'm talking about big-time, I mean like the blue blood SEC type programs, that type of deal. They fill in the gaps, maybe a quarterback, maybe a receiver, maybe an impact defensive player, something like that. But by and large, their roster is built through high school players and developing. Okay, so the transfer portal for Oklahoma State, they have to be right. They can't be wrong. They can't go pay $7 million for Drew Mestemaker, sign him to 2 years, and then halfway through next year realize he wasn't as good as Haas Haney. Oklahoma State has a chance to win Big 12 championships. Oklahoma State has a chance to be a regular in the what's going to be 16-team playoff eventually, 12-team now. No doubt about it. Have a chance to make it every single year with Eric Morris. That's not too ambitious, okay? But they have no margin for error. They have to, on the big-time contracts that they sign, the Drew Mestemakers, the running backs, the Wyatt Youngs, the expensive players, they can't guess wrong. They absolutely cannot guess wrong. That's what happened to Mike Gundy in 2015 is he went out and got some 4 stars and some 5 stars, okay? And then the night before they were supposed to sign, they would flip their commitment, and then Oklahoma State was left with nobody in that spot, and the only players left were like 2 stars like Eric Carr, if you remember that guy. So, yes, Oklahoma State can compete for Big 12 titles. They can compete for playoff berths only if they are 100%, pretty much not 90%, pretty much 100% spot on their evaluations of their expensive players. The rest of them, they'll play money ball. They will win the margin players through quantity more so to me than quality. And how do you do that? You go through that through fit. Like, okay, I need a player that can do this specific skill. Like if you're looking for a player on the margins in baseball, well, I'm looking for an outfielder that can platoon and hit right-handers. You say, well, he only hit 222 last year. This guy sucks. Why would you get him? Well, because he hit 300 against right-handers, and I don't need him to hit against left-handers. So I'm going to get the 300 hitter, not the 220 hitter, right? So that's how you win on the margins. I thought it would be good to mix the best of North Texas and OSU. That's a fair thought. I am on that. I've come to the conclusion that to move on from a legend, I think it's best just to cut bait and just, again, not because you're necessarily upgrading, just because you're removing scar tissue. We can get some solid receivers and an O-line. Is his mic out? Is my mic cutting out? If my microphone is cutting out, let me know because I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. So there's my thoughts. I think Oklahoma State will get Caleb Hawkins. I know Wyatt Young is going to Louisville. He's going to Michigan. Wyatt Young is good. He's very good. And he's smart. He's already used to Eric Morris. He's used to Drew Mestemaker. He's used to the system. He's used to all of it. So it would be good to get Wyatt Young. We'll see how that goes. I think Oklahoma State is going to have to pay for them. And it's going to come down to, is he so good that he's worth the price tag he has? It's not going to come down to, again, I'm going to say this again, okay? For the Toronto Blue Jays, for let me give you the best example, the Milwaukee Brewers. It's not, is Willie Adames good? Hell yeah, Willie Adames was a good shortstop. It's not that. That's not the question for the Oklahoma States. It's not, is he good? It's, is he good versus how much you have to pay to get him that will really hamper your ability to win the margin players, to win the margins through quantity. Is he good enough to say, you know what, we're okay having a little bit less quantity over here because this guy is that good and he's going to make up for it? That's going to be the question for Oklahoma State moving forward. That's the advantage Alabama has. That's the advantage Texas has, is that they can say, I don't have to worry about whether this guy's actually worth the contract we're signing because I have enough money to pay him and then fill in all the quantity everywhere else too. Oklahoma State doesn't have enough money to do both, okay? So obviously Eric Morris thought that Drew Mestemaker was worth the $7 million two-year price tag. He has to be right. If we're wrong on Drew Mestemaker, this program it's gonna struggle, right? So it's a big sign, and it's more than just saying he was through for this, for that. It's saying that Eric Morris is willing to really just kind of put the next couple of years of his neck on the line for this guy. And if Eric Morris is willing to make that kind of commitment and make that kind of statement for Drew Mestemaker, then who in the hell am I to disagree with that, with the job he's done with quarterbacks, right? So super exciting time, lots to fill in. It's an exciting time. Yes, can you become Indiana? Absolutely. Yes, can you become Arizona State? Absolutely. Is it likely? No. I mean, most college teams don't. But I will say Oklahoma State has put themselves in the best position they can. Congratulations, Oklahoma State football fans. Again, you continue to show up. The last game with Iowa State, I don't care. We'd already hired a coach. That was literally the most lame duck game I think I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of OSU games. Even I was going to that game like, there is literally no reason to go to this game. So the Iowa State game, whatever. Oklahoma State fans were elite, not good, elite fans this year for football. That's why you got Eric Morris. And that's why we got the best coach we possibly could have, who in return is going to put together the best roster, the best schemes, and the best of everything we can around him. I hope Clint Bowen gets another shot at coaching. I'm rooting for him. I can't imagine that he doesn't, because he did a damn good job. He's a great ambassador for whoever you want to hire. And so that Clint Bowen should be a guy that definitely gets. I don't think it'll necessarily be as a defensive coordinator. I think maybe if that was the case, it would probably be at like a way smaller Division I school and or a FCS type school, something like that. I think he could be a really damn good position coach at a really good school. So I think it's going to come down to which way he wants to go there. So let's get into some of our basketball talk today, and I'm not going to lie. I was optimistic coming in today. I just thought Oklahoma State would do better than what they did. And, I don't want to – last time that we lost OU, I went on a rant. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that rant. I just want to say that the same issues that Coach Lutz, to be honest with you, has been warning everybody about, probably wearing everybody out with. Defense, specifically, the high pick and roll. We hedge, we switch, we get lost, we don't rotate on the back end of that, and we end up giving up either easy threes on the kick out or dunks. The high pick and roll has been a problem. Guarding the interior, which today was very difficult for Oklahoma State. Guarding the interior, no doubt about that. But again, there was very good. Texas Tech is very good. They were down 3 players. But, hey, Toppin's a great player. But, the question is, do you guard Toppin one-on-one? Can you do that without fouling? No. Can you rotate fast enough and be aware enough to rotate to where if you do double, you don't give up a wide open shot either on the backside for a dunk or on the perimeter for a 3? No. So did Oklahoma State play good on the ball defense without fouling? No. Did they play good interior defense without letting Toppin get fouled or score? No. Did they play good interior defense when they helped over by rotating and not giving up a wide open 3 or a cutter to the backside of that? No. Did the Oklahoma State Cowboys play good defense on the high pick and roll whenever they switched and or tried to go over the top of it and or hedged and tried to get it stopped that way? No. Are these problems Oklahoma State has had all year? Yes. So, I don't know. Maybe Coach Lutz overcorrected. Last year we struggled with offense. Maybe he just went and got too many offensive players and not a Marcus Dove, not a Cornell Hatcher. And, you need 1 or 2 of those guys, or Tony Allen. Maybe he needed to get a guy like that or 2 that's not quite the great offensive player, that just can't wait to Genava Weatherspoon, can't wait to get in there to play defense. Maybe overcorrected, but I'm not going to overreact. This is a team that just beat Duke. It's on the road. First Big 12 game for all of these guys, okay? Yes, the offense was disheveled. Yes, the 2-point guards played hero ball. Yes, the offense the ball stuck. It was one-on-one. Oklahoma State struggled to get good shots off because they weren't running good offense. I know they scored 80 points, but it just was ugly. Okay. Yes, all of that. Literally, I mean, if you were to ask me, and I'm going to say this again, is my audio bad? Okay. Let's see. Let me see if I can get into this and see what's going on here. So send a message if my audio is bad here. I will fix that if I have to. Let me do this here, right quick, and see if I can fix that. Leave me a message. Best city I've ever been. Great. Leave me somebody that's in the chat right now. Leave me a message and let me know about my audio right now and how it sounds. I've had a couple of. I don't know if you're talking about me or if you're talking about what's going on. So let me do this and make sure I actually have the right microphone set up. Yeah, I do have the right microphone set up. So I don't know what it would be. My input levels are good. I got the right microphone selected. So no, it's working fine for me. Okay. So very good. I don't know what it would have been if it wasn't. Okay. So if you're going to ask me, was there anything positive to take out of today's game? I'm going to say maybe a little bit of Ben Ahmed. I think Ben Ahmed looked good. I think that part of it looked good. I'm going to say that's about it. Okay, that's about all I took positive out of this. Having said that, this isn't the OU feeling to me. I mean, I thought Oklahoma State would compete better. I did think they had a chance to win today, but I'm not surprised in any way, shape, or form. I thought Oklahoma State would go in and beat OU. I thought they'd beat them by 10 points, and that'd be the end of it, and I'd be pretty damn happy about it. I was surprised by that. I was optimistic about today. I know there were some people close to the program that were optimistic about it. It didn't happen. Okay, having said that, let's go beat UCF. If you look on the schedule, and I think if everything just kind of goes to hell, I think OSU is looking at 7 or 8 Big 12 wins. And I say that from an optimistic perspective. I think if OSU gets its crap together and just learns how to play together a little bit better on the offensive end against the good teams, learns how to play the high pick and roll a bit better, play interior defense without fouling, do the double team thing a little bit better, close out on shooters better, rotate better, which they haven't done it. And I know Coach Lutz has been talking about it for a month now and through a lot of practicing, and they haven't done it. But if they can do that, I think Oklahoma State, if they play to their potential, can still win 9-10 games in conference. If they play a little bit above their potential, they can do a little bit better at that and be a tournament team. The concerning part about today, though, is to this point, Oklahoma State had not played the great players. They'd played some good teams. Hey, believe it or not, Bethune-Cookman's not terrible. Cal State Fullerton's not terrible. Northwestern's not terrible. Grand Canyon in that setting, not terrible. Not great by any stretch, but not terrible. But what Oklahoma State hadn't played to this point is they hadn't played the NBA guy. They hadn't played the guy that, point blank, he's better than anybody you have on the court. No slight to our players. I love our roster. Great dudes. I think we're a talented roster. But quite frankly, Oklahoma State doesn't have a JT Toppin. They don't have a Christian Anderson. I think Victorious Miller can be that guy in time. I don't think he's that guy right now. I think Anthony Roy has parts of his game that are that good, but not the complete type game. I think when Christian Coleman's going good, he can do some things that JT Toppin does, but I don't think he's quite that upper echelon player yet. So Oklahoma State had not played that legitimate NBA type player yet. And they definitely hadn't played 2 NBA players on the same team. And you saw, hey, the talent of just those 2 guys alone. Yes, I know the rest of the team for Texas Tech shot lights out, but it's because you center your game around Toppin in the perimeter, and then Christian Anderson, whether it be mid-range or on the perimeter, whatever. Whenever you have to devote a double team down the blocks, whatever it may be, a double team on a penetration by Anderson, then they kick it. The reason why those other guys are open is because you have 2 NBA players on your team. Oklahoma State had not played a team that had not just one player of that caliber, and they jumped from that to playing a team that has two players of that caliber, and it was just a situation to where our players weren't ready for it. It's not that they weren't ready for it emotionally, they just hadn't seen it, right? They just hadn't. So from that perspective, I'm just going to say, hey, they got to see it, they got to taste it, they got flustered, they started playing hero ball, they started feeling like they had to keep up with that part of it, and they just couldn't do it. Make it a learning experience. Go beat UCF, be 1-1 in conference, and let's see what we do. And I think this is still a team that legitimately can make the NCAA tournament. So I'm leaving today with absolutely nothing positive to say about the game, but with nothing really negative to say about what I think the future of this program and this year's team can accomplish, okay? So if I was delivering the message to the team, my message would be just that. Today sucked. You guys sucked. This game sucked. Our game plan sucked. The execution of our game plan sucked. Everything about it sucked, okay? But we don't suck. And so I'm excited about what we can do moving forward, okay? Today sucked, but we don't suck. The season has not sucked as a whole yet, and there's a lot of season left. So let's get it together. Let's beat UCF, and let's go do it. In terms of the girls, okay, sound great. Okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Clint. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chad. Okay, no, it's a thank you, Fix-A-Code Gaming. And thank you, all of you wonderful OState fans out there. That best fan base in football, go Pokes. I would agree with that, no doubt about it. The girls, okay, and I'm going to come at this from high standards, okay. I think Cole's a good player down low. I think Staley Hurd has had times in her career where she's been a primetime player. I think Micah Gray's a good player. We saw Jaden Wooten lose her control, her temper a little bit in the fouling situation against Baylor. I think Hallie Timmer, Lena Girardi's hurt right now. I know that. And the whole crew. I think it's a good team. I think there's good players. I think they have a chance to be good. I think Wednesday night was a good wake-up call. Hey, Baylor's a good team. Of course, you have the big lead. The problem that happened to OSU, though, and, man, that fourth quarter was – the end of the third quarter, that fourth quarter was ugly. You could see it. I know Coach Hoyt tried to call a timeout, tried to call a set play, ended up with a fadeaway three out. Okay, so here's where I kind of went, yeah, this is over. And I don't want to be pessimistic, but that's just my experience in sports, not necessarily in basketball. But when Coach Hoyt called a timeout with about 5 minutes to go, set up a set play, and we passed the ball one time and shot a 22-footer fading away. That was what happened out of a timeout. That's kind of when I went, yeah, this team has lost it mentally. They've gotten flustered, and they're kind of gone at this point. That's when he kind of knew that the game wasn't going to come back to OSU. And so what Oklahoma State needed at that point, first of all, they need to stop fouling. You can blame the officials, and you can be 100% correct. Okay, we've had this conversation before. Oh, the officials are terrible. Oh, it was one-sided. Baylor got all the calls, but the OSU got screwed. You can be 100% correct, okay? All of everything you can say about terrible officiating can be correct, and I'm not saying it was. I didn't see anything that stuck out to me that really got me fired up. I typically just don't even pay attention to officials unless I feel like I need to make a message that, like, I do feel like, hey, maybe I need to make a point here to make them realize that we're here, we're paying attention to you, that kind of thing. Beyond that, I don't like to even pay attention to officials, and here's why. You can't control it. To the extent you can control officials is that you can let them know you're there. Hey, we're not just going to get pushed over without me saying something to you, correct? You can do that. But beyond that, you got to find a way to win. You can only control what you can control. Officials are not something, especially as a player, that you can control. So even if you think the fouling situation for Oklahoma State, the Cowgirls on Wednesday, Was it Wednesday? My days go together, okay? I'm old, right? Senile. Even if you think we got screwed, the fouling situation was because the referees sucked. I don't care. You got to overcome it. If you want to be a great team, you can't lose a game and make the okay, well, we got screwed by the referees. That's not what great teams do. Great teams figure out a way to control what they can control and figure out a way to win around the parts of the game that they can control and make better. Okay, if a referee is now, I don't disagree. Hey, if an umpire, a home plate umpire is calling it this strike at about 2 baseballs outside, and he's calling it all game, hey, fine. I know what to expect. I know if there's 2 strikes on me as a hitter and the ball's a ball and a half off the plate, I better swing. Okay, it's the home plate umpires that one time that's a strike, the next time it's not. Sometimes they call this pitch, sometimes they don't. It's the umpires that are inconsistent. The basketball referees that are inconsistent. Sometimes they call this, sometimes they don't. I get it. So easier said than done, controlling what you can control, but you have to figure it out. So the foul trouble led to a bunch of really weird type rotations. It led to Jaden Wooten not being as aggressive as she could be, Staley Hurd, that kind of deal. And it led, quite honestly, to just kind of a momentum that was weird, that like it just felt like the momentum was gone, okay? So I'm not going to go to the referee thing just because not that it's not a correct narrative, just because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to overcome it. If you want to be a Sweet 16, an Elite 8, a Final Four, or even an NCAA tournament team, you got to figure out a way around it. You got to figure out a way to not let foul trouble defeat you, especially when you have a huge lead. So that part of it, I was disappointed. I was disappointed that, hey, I'm not going to lie. I think the Cowgirls got some good shots, but I also think they let the moment and the momentum slipping away. I really felt that like they lost their composure to the point to where they took some really bad shots in that stretch too. And then I think it also goes to where I think there's times to where you need a post player where you need a Parsafala that you can dump it down to in the blocks whenever you feel momentum slipping away and you really need a bucket, where they can just go one-on-one and post up and score and or get fouled and go to the free throw line, which stops the clock. It stops momentum. Because when you're never going to the free throw line, you never stop that. That's what a timeout's meant to do. You never stop that snowball from going downhill. And so I think the Cowgirls got out of sorts with the rotations. I think they got out of sorts with their composure, their shot selection. I think Coach Hoy did everything she could to stay positive, to call timeouts, to try to get the train back on their tracks. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, okay? The OU game getting blown out, no surprise. I think that happens probably 20 times out of 20. I think Oklahoma State can beat Baylor at home if you play that game again. It's disappointing that they gave up that lead. I still think this is a good team, and I don't mean this to be any slight. I know her dad was a great athlete, a great dude, Tony Hurd, but Staley Hurd, we have got to get her going. We've got to get Staley Hurd playing. So when Oklahoma State starts losing the lead like that and needs a series of buckets to stem the tide, just to stop the game for 2 or 3 minutes, right? I mean, what does a timeout do? In a timeout, is it usually the strategy that you're drawing up that creates it? It can be, but you know what a timeout does? It just stops the game. It's like stopping and starting, okay? It makes it harder for the other team has to start back up, right? You got to throw the ball in bounds. The flow of the game stopped. So what going to the free throw line does, same concept as a timeout, especially if you go to the free throw line a lot. It stops the game. When the other team has momentum and you feel it going downhill, get yourself to the free throw line. Stop the game, okay? Micah Gray, jump shooter. So yes, she can make shots. Jaden Wooten, she typically likes to pull up and shoot like the 10 or 15 foot jump shot. She can get to the rim, but I think a lot of times she's looking to score versus looking to get fouled. The one girl I think can create her own offense in those biggest moments, Amari Whiting, obviously a very good player too. She has a little bit of ability to make her own shots as well. So I think the young lady that needs to have the ball in her hands in those moments where you feel like it's slipping away, that is good enough to either score to stop momentum that way or get to the free throw line, really needs to be Staley Hurd. Unless we find the best version of Staley Hurd, I think this is a team that's going to be very good against the bottom rung teams like we saw today against Houston, and then struggle with the better teams like Baylor and OU. I hope you don't take this as me calling out Staley Hurd in any way, shape, or form. I am not. I'm very high on Staley Hurd. I think she's a great player. Every athlete goes through stress. Actually, what I'm saying is the opposite. I'm saying I think she is so good that I hope we find the best version of her, because without the best version of Staley Hurd, I think this team's going to be a bubble team that will have just like you did, you lost to Houston last year, and because of that, you had to face South Dakota State in the first round. You lost. So if you don't find the best version of Staley Hurd, you're going to be a bubble team, I think, probably to begin with. And then from there, you're going to have an 8-9 matchup, and it's going to be a toss-up. So, hey, wing team is Shawnee with Gordon and McLean. That's who it was, McLean. Yeah, sound great. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thank you for that, Twins dad. Man, I can remember that like it was yesterday. Those dudes. I remember that was one of my very first high school games I ever suited up for on the sideline at Stillwater. And I remember thinking, if this is how fast high school football is, I'm screwed, because I am not nearly that fast. I was terrible at football anyways to begin with. I always enjoyed the X and O's of it, but I was not a good football player in any way, shape, or form. I do not want to I don't want to try to act like anything other than that. But I think that was my first game ever as a football player that I suited up for at Stillwater. And I remember having that thought, come to find out that I was watching an NFL All-Pro guy run the football. So that's where I'm at with the girls basketball team. Disappointed in the way I feel like they lost their composure. I think they can do better. I think there's a better version of them out there. Certainly the same could be said for the men's basketball team. And I gave a lot of thoughts on the football program. That there's a lot of thoughts out there. That is what it is. So beyond that, man, what a wonderful crowd we've had tonight. Haven't done one of these in a while. I'm going to do one tomorrow night with Scott McKinley. Going to have the crew back going this week. Kind of took a Christmas break type break there. Going to try to get things going. And by the way, also, hey, listen up. I haven't confirmed. I am going to interview Blake Hawksworth, the new pitching coach for Oklahoma State University. Probably going to get that done this week. So be looking forward to, on my Dodgers Daily site, Blake actually played with the Dodgers in the system, so I'm going to double whammy that. I'm going to talk about his Dodgers career a little bit for my Dodgers Daily site, and then talk about his Oklahoma State, coming to Oklahoma State for the OState Daily site. Absolutely cannot wait to talk to Coach Hawksworth. If you're an Oklahoma State fan at the collegiate level, it's Coach Hawksworth. If you're talking about Coach Hawksworth as a pro at the Dodgers, I'll call him Blake. Because if you're a pro, you call him by people by your first name. That's the respect, because you're all equals at the pro level. But at the amateur level, you call him coach because the coach is higher up in the hierarchy. It's kind of interesting how that works. So it's Blake if you're a Dodgers fan. It's Coach Hawksworth if you're an Oklahoma State fan. So cannot wait to talk to Coach Hawksworth. We'll get that done, and we'll release that this week or maybe the week after. So, hey, until then, tomorrow night, we'll have a show tomorrow night. Probably either at 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock. It's going to be either before my Dodgers Daily show or after. Either way, we'll get it done. So any time between 6 and 8, come and join. We've had a wonderful crowd tonight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And until then, go Pokes.